Hey guys, you have a credit score problem? Well, you're not alone. I've had lots of friends, even an ex-wife, with bad credit scores. But guess what? You can fix it, sometimes in as little as 30 days. Now, I've had people say to me, Stacy, who gives a rat's ass about my credit? You know what? That's idiotic. Everyone should care about their credit. Your credit is how lenders decide whether to lend you money. And more importantly, or just as important, how much they charge you when they do lend you money. And being able to borrow is going to help you get rich by using other people's money.
I love money. I love money more than I love the things it can buy. There's only one thing I like better. Other people's money.
Exactly right, Mr. DeVito. Borrowed money gives you leverage. It's a critical tool for getting rich. It allows you to invest in assets like real estate you otherwise couldn't afford to buy. Let me give you an example. The day I graduated from college, my parents gave me a used Toyota. It was like 2 or 3 years old. And then I sold that car and used that money as a down payment on my very first house. Then I went to a credit union and I borrowed the money to buy a classic car, a 1958 Triumph TR3, which I drove for a year and then I sold for a profit. So there you go. If you want to get rich, you're going to want to use other people's money. And you're going to need to get good credit to get at that money. So that's one reason to polish your credit and your credit score. But it's really not the only reason. Your credit score could influence what you pay for car insurance. You know what? Insurance companies have figured out that people who wreck their credit are more likely to wreck their cars. Your credit could also affect whether you get an apartment. Why would someone put you in an apartment if you can't pay the rent? And your credit history can even affect whether you get a job. So this can have a huge effect on your life. So today I'm going to give you the skinny to grease and increase your credit score. But stay till the very end because you need all the tips to make it happen. And by the way, I'm Stacy Johnson. I'm a CPA and CEO of MoneyTalksNews.com. I've been teaching money secrets to people just like you for nearly 40 years. First thing to know about credit, there are lots of companies that produce credit scores, but the only one we're going to care about today at least is the FICO Score. Why? Because it's the one most lenders use, FICO. It ranges from a low of 300 to a perfect 850. Now the next thing you need to know, you don't need a perfect score to get the best deals on credit. 760 or higher will typically do the trick. True 850 credit scores are rare, but I want you to know something. I have one. And my score hasn't always been perfect. I've had issues in the past. Who hasn't? But now I know the tricks, the same ones I'm about to give you. Before we start talking about the things that are going to supercharge your credit, let's talk about some myths. Let's talk about things people think affect their credit, but actually don't. For example, do you think how much money you make makes a difference? Guess what? Your income doesn't matter at all. Credit scoring companies don't give a damn how much money you make. Do you think your work history matters? Nope. Your jobs aren't part of your credit history. How about other things? What about your age? Think that matters? Nope. How about your race? Nope. Your sex? Nope. How tall you are? Where you live? None of that stuff matters. So what do you think does matter when it comes to a credit score or credit history? If you said paying bills on time all the time for long periods of time, congratulations, you win, you're right. Obviously, your history of paying your bills is the most important thing. And it's that credit history, that history of paying your bills, that makes up your credit score. Think about your credit history like all the work you did in school, the test you took, the papers you handed in. Well, your credit score is the one-number summary of all that history. It's a single grade that lets a lender know how you stack up compared to other people. So, how do we improve a credit history and a credit score? Let's go through it step by step. Okay, step one, guys, go to annualcreditreport.com. Get a free copy of your credit history from one of the big 3 credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax. Don't go to some stupid site like, well, free credit score, free credit report, blah, 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 free anything else.com. They're going to try to sell you something. You only want to go to the government-sanctioned annualcreditreport.com. When you get there, you're going to find you can get a free copy of your credit report once a year from each of the big 3 credit reporting agencies, ones I just said, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Just pick one and download your report. Now, when you get your credit report, look for fake news. debts that aren't yours, late payments that weren't late, old bad marks that should have been deleted. If there are mistakes on that credit history, you got to dispute them. Removing that fake news, removing those mistakes on your credit report is the fastest way to raise your credit score. Years ago, I applied for a mortgage without checking my history or my score. I didn't need to check it because I knew it was going to be perfect. Wrong. Years before, and I mean years before, my cell phone company had dinged my history for a final bill that I never got when I switched carriers. Now, I almost missed out on buying a new house because of that one mistake. I've also found other mistakes in my credit history. For example, the same loan was recorded twice. Mistakes in credit histories are not rare. Studies suggest between 5 and 25% of credit histories have mistakes in them. It's a national disgrace, really. But the bottom line is, you get your history, you check it. And if you find a mistake, you dispute it. Disputing mistakes may sound hard. It isn't. You can do it online. You can do it by mail. You can do it by phone. The credit reporting agency websites will tell you exactly what to do. Just do a search for dispute, then the words TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax, and you'll get instructions. Interesting side note. You've seen these companies that promise quick fixes to your credit score. Here's what they do. They dispute every bad mark on your credit history. Why? Because whenever you dispute something, the credit reporting agency has to remove it while they make sure that it's right, while they research it. And if they can't verify that bad mark, guess what? They have to take it off. It's like going to court to fight a traffic ticket. If the cop doesn't show up to testify, the case gets automatically thrown out. Same thing here. If you dispute your bad stuff, and it could be the company that put it there is out of business or they don't respond, boom, you win. Negative stays off your credit history. Now, what about bad stuff that's legit? That's step 3, getting bad but legitimate stuff removed from your credit history. How are you going to do that? Well, you're going to do it by asking the company that gave you that bad mark to take it off. It's called a goodwill adjustment. Do you still use that credit card you paid late a time or two? Write your bank a letter and ask them to remove those late pays. My ex-wife did this. She wrote letters, she asked for a break, and it actually worked for her. It took a while. She had to do it more than once, but it actually did work. Raised her score a ton. Now, this works best if you've only got a couple of problems. In other words, you got a couple of late pays, so it looks like the exception and not the rule. Your history's not trash. You just made a mistake or two. Worked better then. Okay, now, what if you've got old unpaid balances that went to collections? You can negotiate with those. If you still owe money, you have an unpaid balance, you can use what's called a pay for delete. That means you're offering to pay part or all of what you owe in exchange for them removing that negative information. Just make sure you get their promise in writing, because people who collect debts will often lie. They'll say anything to get your money. So get it in writing. Okay, by the way, that old cell phone bill I was just telling you about? That's exactly how I got that off my credit history so I could get a better deal on my mortgage. I offered them half what I owed, which wasn't a whole lot. It's like $200 or something, if they delete it. I paid it. I paid $100. They deleted it. See? It works. Will goodwill adjustments or pay for deletes always work, though? Unfortunately, no. You're at the mercy of the creditor. There's nothing that requires them to help you, but it doesn't cost you a dime to try, and I've definitely seen it work. So try it. Don't know how to word a goodwill adjustment or a pay for delete letter? Who does? It's not a biggie, though. There are free examples online. Just do a search and you'll find them, or you can click the links we provided below. And by the way, while you're looking at those links below, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the bell so you'll get notified when we put out new videos, which we do all the time. Okay, now let's move on to step 4, improving your credit utilization ratio. Oh my, sounds complicated, right? Nah, don't let your eyes glaze over on this one. Credit utilization is a $5 term for a 50-cent concept. All it is just how much of your available credit you're actually using. For example, say you owe $300 on a credit card with a $1,000 limit. Well, you've got a 30% utilization ratio because you've used 30% of your available credit, right? So you want your credit utilization ratio to be as low as possible. How are you going to lower that ratio? Well, there's only 2 ways. You're either going to pay off part of your balance, or you're going to raise your credit limit. If you owe $300 and your credit limit's $1,000, obviously your utilization ratio is 30%. But what if you get your limit raised to $2,000? Now it's 15%. Pick it up on a penny down, make a quick phone call, and maybe you lower that ratio. Okay, now, before I get to our last but definitely not least tip to improve your credit, I'm going to ask you again for a little love. I've got tons of great stuff at moneytalksnews.com, and I've got a podcast too. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. You want to know more about money? Stick with me. Remember, moneytalksnews.com. Okay, enough commercial. Let's go to our last but definitely not least tip. It's step 5, getting a piggyback ride. This means finding a friend or family member with great credit and becoming an authorized user on their credit card. In other words, you're going to be getting a credit card on their existing account. That means you're sharing their credit history. And if their history is great, yours is going to improve. This is especially true if you're just starting out and trying to build your credit file. Now, unlike co-signing a loan, which I never recommend, when you become an authorized user on someone else's credit card, they're responsible for your charges. But they're not necessarily taking a ton of risk. Why not? Because they don't have to actually hand you the card. They can keep it and throw it in a drawer to make sure you don't screw up. But even if you never use that card at all, your credit is still going to benefit from piggybacking on theirs. All right, we're not quite done yet, but let's recap for a second. We've now covered 5 things you could do to improve your credit history and your credit score. 1, get your free credit history from annualcreditreport.com. 2, look for and dispute any mistakes. 3, use pay for delete and goodwill adjustment letters. 4, lower your credit utilization ratio. And 5, get a piggyback ride. Okay, now that you know all this, there's no reason to ever pay anyone else to fix your credit history for you. Because there's not a single thing anyone can do for you that you can't do for yourself. However, having said that, if you don't want to deal with it and decide to pay for help anyway, be careful. There's lots of ripoffs out there in credit repair land. I can hook you up with legitimate credit repair companies. Just go to the Solution Center at moneytalksnews.com. The Solution Center, it's right at the top of the page, can't miss it. Okay, I'm done. But remember though, what's the main way you're going to keep that credit score high? Say it with me. Pay your bills on time, every time, for long periods of time. Do whatever it takes to do that, guys. Use AutoPay, use a budgeting app. Do whatever the hell it takes not to screw anything up. And don't borrow money unless it's going to make you richer, unless it's going to make you more than what you're paying in interest on that loan. Make sense? I hope so. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging with me for a few minutes. I'm Stacy Johnson. I'll look forward to seeing you on moneytalksnews.com. And don't forget, subscribe to my YouTube channel, listen to my podcast. See you soon.